Good morning, everybody. Um, Bobby Piton here. Ah, got the wrong camera on. Sorry, folks. It's all right. So we'll just go with it. So basically, today's Monday, April 12th. I hope everybody had a nice weekend. It was kind of rainy where I'm at and so forth. But overall, it was a nice weekend. And I just kind of started out my day seeing the news that Microsoft is going to acquire a company by the name of Nuance. So for some of those, I guess some of you might know what Nuance is if you bought their product. They're a speech recognition software company, and they basically allow you to speak into a device, and it can take your voice and convert it to text and so forth. And I think that this technology's been in the works. Um, I think for I don't know decades. I mean, there's been talk about this for a long time. Nuance spent a lot of time kind of bouncing around. It wasn't really making any money. They finally started to make some money, and the company isn't doing that much in revenue. I don't think it does more than $1 billion in revenue, and Microsoft is going to acquire it for 16 billion. So the news came out that Microsoft's going to buy it for $16 billion, which basically, you think about it logically. One second here, make sure people can hear me. Good morning, everybody. Mason, can you guys hear me okay? I just want to be sure that my mic is working properly. Um, I don't have any problems, right? Nobody has a problem hearing. Okay. So basically, Microsoft buying out Nuance for 16 billion, where they're paying, the company has, I think, a negative book value. So that means that when a company has a negative book value, it on paper at least, not what the stock market says, there is, it has a negative net worth on its balance sheet. So if it has, let's just say it had $1 billion of assets, if it has $1.5 billion of liabilities, then you would basically have a negative $500 million. Well, in the case of Nuance, they have a negative book value when you strip out goodwill. I think they have like $2 billion worth of goodwill. So goodwill is a concept that's kind of fluffy. It's what is something worth for the intangible. So, for example, some companies goodwill means something. For example, if you look at when you pay for sugar water, if or just regular water for that matter now, if you have a name associated with it, like Pepsi, that name allows Pepsi to charge you maybe an extra nickel or so to for you to buy that sugar water that Pepsi sells you. And so why do you pay that is the question. And the question, what it comes down to is they've spent decades advertising to everybody to get you to think positive things about Pepsi. And so that concept of goodwill means something because they did something that allows other people to quickly know what it is that they sell, what their product is, and so forth. And so Nuance, them having $2 billion of goodwill, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know how many of you out there know the brand Nuance. I mean, I don't really know of the brand Nuance. I mean, I know about the company, but in terms of there's no like, wow, it's Nuance. There is none of that. And where there is that with, people know the brand Walmart, people know the brand Target. Those are goodwills that make sense in terms of when it's on the balance sheet. In the case of Nuance, there is none, and so there's a $2 billion goodwill asset. They say that we're worth $2 billion for all these things, these brands, these intangibles that we have. When you strip that out and you look at the balance sheet excluding goodwill, it's a negative book value. And so Microsoft paying $16 billion will be all goodwill. so if you think about Microsoft, they're paying 16 billion. It's going to be primarily all goodwill because I don't think they're going to write down Nuance's goodwill. But let's just say that when you look at the balance sheet, when this deal goes through, and I had the filing up here earlier, just kind of was looking at how they've done. So if we go to the 10K, for example, and you can go to sec.gov, folks. If you ever want to look at any of this, you can go to the SEC, and you can go and all these reports they have to be filed in order to stay on the exchanges if you're listing your stock on the U.S. stock exchanges. But when I look at Nuance, I'm just going to pull them down. Okay, so I said they do about $1.5 billion now in revenue. I thought they did about 800 million, 900 million, but that's on the hosting and professional services. So looking at 2020 and their 10K, product and licensing is 300 million, maintenance is 256. Overall, their revenues were down versus 2019. That shouldn't be a shock, but basically, I can't help but think that maybe Microsoft thinks that Nuance could be a version of Zoom, and if they have the technology for speech recognition, maybe Nuance is going to allow the aggregation of intelligence across companies. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you're a company and you have a call center and your employees are speaking to clients, customers, etc., and you want to, you have tens of thousands of employees, 100,000 employees, and you want to keep track of what they're saying, and you want to know what's working and what doesn't work. So when somebody says blah, 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 wow, the customer likes it. When somebody says yeah, it's like not so good. And so this software, I'm guessing, and once again, folks, they're not going to tell you this. This is part of the strategy discussions behind the scenes. They're not going to tell the public all this stuff. They do report what they need to. But in terms of, as George Bush would say, strategery decisions, any kind of strategery type of decisions are kind of left to the boardroom, folks. And so, and some of the individuals don't even share that with everybody because they don't want the information leaking. But thinking about it from a strategery standpoint, as George Bush would say, gotta do a shout out to little Georgie. So when you think about, okay, I'm a credit card company, I'm a retailer, I'm online, Amazon, and I can turn around and monitor through mathematics. A lot of this is mathematics, folks. What is being said, the time on each phone call, the voice recognition of each person that's speaking on the phone. So, if it's an employee and which customer, when a customer calls in, does their voice print match the details about that person, in terms of fraud detection. So you have all these types of things happening literally because of the computing power is there in real time. so they can do this. Now, keep in mind, folks, this is super cool, but it's also extremely scary because this is the surveillance state that they talk about. So, for Nuance to be sold to a company such as Microsoft that's worth, I think Microsoft's $2 trillion too. They were neck and neck with, I know they were going back and forth with, with Apple. But yeah, Microsoft is worth $1.93 trillion. So $1.93 trillion, you're paying $16 billion for this. But now, if you're Microsoft and you have everybody on your stuff, you have Word, you have Excel, you have your operating system, and now there's a feature where they can monitor what you're saying, and maybe they can put it into your microphone on your computer. So it doesn't make me very comfortable. I personally don't like the idea of them monitoring me, and so this is just one more thing I have to do to take precautions not to be monitored. I don't believe in this invasion of privacy. I think the laws in this country need to be updated with regards to preventing this type of behavior unless you truly opt in. And, our phone system, if you think about it, they couldn't keep all these records on us. I know the NSA is keeping all these records on us, but the phone companies weren't supposed to listen in without a warrant, if you recall. This was decades ago. Now all these companies listen in. My damn phone right here is probably listening in. Yes, you guys are scumbags. Take that message and quantify it. But but I'm just saying that this is the big news of the day. This is a big acquisition. It is significant, and it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out and whether or not the American people start to do any type of pushback. I know in Europe they passed laws a few years ago, I think, where it was the right to be forgotten. That you had to, like if you're a tech company, you're a social media company, and someone no longer wanted to use your platform, they had a right to have you delete everything about them, right? I think it's a wonderful idea. I don't think these companies should be able to keep information about us without our permission. And I think that type of stuff, we need more of that happening, happen in Europe. We need to spread this worldwide. Nobody should be having their information collected about them as though they're a little product that you could just keep getting sold to the highest bidder without your permission, without your knowledge, and so forth. And so it's a fine line, folks, because you want more communication between people. You want to have better messaging, but there has to be a way to make it fair and equitable for everybody involved. And right now it's all one-sided. Let's face the facts. They're in the driver's seat. They have the information, and we are. They're just running roughshod over us. When I say roughshod, I mean they're just doing whatever the hell they want on the American people and so forth. And actually, not just the American people. They don't even really care about America anymore. A lot of these multinationals, they kind of view it as they own the whole planet. And until the American people take a leadership role and unite with other people around the world, that these various members of each respective society worldwide says enough is enough, they're going to keep pulling more and more power away from everybody. And so we're the last stand holding the whole dam up, so to speak. If the Americans don't fight back, the rest of the world is toast with us. So we have to fight back on this, and we have to put better systems in place. And this is why the election integrity is such a huge issue, because if through the use of technology and mathematics, they can sway elections, they can create whatever outcome they need in order to enforce more of a surveillance state on all of us. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do to stop it, aside from possibly taking up, arms, which is what they want to take away as well. So this is a big problem, folks. So no other than parasitic Powell. I guess I did give him that moniker. From the Federal Reserve was on 60 Minutes. That 60 Minutes that has really hurt its credibility. If you look at some of the news stories, embellishing things here and there. Hey, that's not my fault, folks. I'm just telling you what I read. So if I read it on the internet, it must be true. So 60 Minutes, I have no idea if any of it's true. I'm just saying some of your colleagues are reporting about you. So it's kind of tough. When fake news reports on fake news, does the fakeness cancel out the fakeness of the other fake news? I don't know. Maybe it turns positive. So I can't tell you which one it is, folks. I just know that 60 Minutes had Powell on, and Powell was not concerned about inflation, which once again, he's a scumbag. He's basically saying he's going to debase our currency by 2% a year. And during years when it's too slow, he's going to debase it more, that he could do a catch-up session and so forth. And so that's why I don't like him. And I think that these people are, I think that it's crazy to me that we're not more outraged by what's taking place with the continual debasement of our assets. Now, it just so happens that the U.S. dollar is still very strong relative to other currencies worldwide, because some of these other countries are debasing their currency more than us, and so forth. And so that's part of the issue. And part of it is there is a lag effect, folks. That a lot of people forget about that. But in economics, sometimes something that you do, it doesn't really ripple through for 6, 12, 18 months. And the way you make money in the markets over time You got to get really good at the timing. Like, where do the lags flow through the system? And if you can visualize that, map it out, you can do the work. That's how you get paid. That's how you make money in the markets, is understanding those different supply and demand factors and how it's going to impact various asset classes or various prices within an industry or company based on what they're doing. Okay, so digital. Powell is he did come out and say digital currencies are on the mind of U.S. policymakers. In particular, National Security Council, Treasury, State Department, and the Pentagon. Now, you ask yourself a question: why is that? Well, it's super important, folks. If you can create a digital currency, and you know how everybody buys and sells in an economy. So I want you to imagine this for a second. This is crazy, right? Because one of the nice things about cash, and before we kind of switch to this digital economy, is it allows the buyer to have anonymity. So there's information that I have. So if we're playing cards, we're playing poker, and then you have your cards, and then I have my cards, and we play, and then you don't know if I'm going to buy or sell. So you have to you got to gauge whether or not I'm going to buy or sell something, right? Because you don't see my cards. You don't see my cards. I don't see your cards. So then we're playing this kind of game and this little dance as to what we need to do. Well, now, if you're a multinational corporation and mathematically every single thing I buy, every penny that I spend on any given day or every day since the history of my life, like every single moment through time, you know exactly what I spend. Not just what I spend, you know what everybody spends. You know what like every other person spends. Well, then you can optimize against this all. You can be like, well, here's the elasticity of demand. Anybody who out there who remembers their microeconomics classes, you're like, okay, all these people are all buying, and they're buying this much. And as a result of buying this much, if we just nudge it a little bit, nobody's going to change. They're gonna keep buying. And so we can just kind of keep nudging along the prices because they're not going to change their behavior. We see the data in real time. And then this is why corporate profits in the United States, they went from about 4 or 5 cents of every dollar, and 4 or 5% of GDP. I think corporate profits are over 10%, folks. So if you believe in free enterprise and free competition, like there's this thing called competition, right? Corporate profits shouldn't be 10% of the economy. Like, they should be closer to probably 3 or 4%, 5%, because excess profits in the system should be bid away by competition. But they're not being bid away, folks. And the reason why they're not being bid away is because these multinationals have all this information about everybody in real time. And as a result of having all this information about each of us in real time, they can shift their prices in real time to maximize profits in real time, not by the day, folks, probably by the minute. They probably have systems where they could recalibrate the prices of anything across a million SKUs, like Amazon, or like not just minutes. Hell, they can probably go a fraction of a second, just like the stock market. So what happened in the stock market is literally spilled over into everything that happens in our lives. It's and they're trying to figure out how to capture every single thing. Now, keep in mind, 100 years ago or something, this isn't a new trick, that is being played. There was a law passed, I think it was Robinson-Patman Law or Act, and it outlawed price discrimination. So you couldn't sell things at different prices to different customers. You had to sell one price. And so that was the way in which you would, by doing that, by saying you have to set one price that everybody has available to them, you prevented this type of market manipulation that takes place to kind of crush any competitors. And I think that some of these laws, I hate to say it, they need to be revised, but I I have like zero faith in our Congress. I think if you slap those laws in front of them from 100 years ago and say, hey, do you understand this? They would look at you like you had three heads. They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Who reads this stuff anymore? We have new crap to write. So that's the problem, folks, because, this whole thing with digital currency, that's the real game. It has, everybody's like so excited. Oh, well, it's going to be digital this, and this digital US dollar is going to compete with Bitcoin, everything else. I got news for you. The currency, that's the sideshow. What everybody's really after is an understanding and knowledge in real time of every single thing that is done in this economy. That's the real value. That's, that information that somebody gathers, whether it be the Federal Reserve, whether it be multinationals, whether it be China. That's why it's a national security threat. If China knows in real time through its currency transactions, if they do a digital currency that people in the United States start to use to do transactions on U.S. soil, they know the stress points throughout our entire system, and they can literally create shortages. Like right now, there is a shortage of semiconductors in automobiles. Okay, worldwide shortage. Why do you think that is? Because if you have an understanding of the stressors in an entire system, you can grind it to a halt with just cutting off certain pieces of the supply chain. But if you can monitor all the transactions that are kind of going into a semiconductor plant in real time and calculate how much slack they have in the system, because all that information is being captured digitally somehow, and there's some people that are figuring out how to do it. And for all I know, there's a bunch of Chinese CCP operatives that have infiltrated a lot of our systems, and they've put in Trojan viruses, right? They have these. They literally write code that it sits dormant for 5, 10, 15 years, and then they turn it on, and they can see everything that's happening in a computer network or on different people's PCs and so forth, or people's communication devices. Anything that's been made in China. There's an article about the chip within a chip, the microchip of a chip. You should check it out. I think I posted it before. It was written by Bloomberg. It was like the tip of a pencil, and there was like a chip that was tinier than the tip of a pencil within each chip of where it was produced. And folks, who's to say that wasn't done with with a Trojan virus in there, so to speak, where it's waiting for the best time to strike and take down things out of the markets, take down our system and so forth. So I got news for you. I don't know. I'm hopeful that we have people within our government that are getting this shit done. I'm just reading by myself, and I go through a lot of data, and I read nonstop pretty much for my livelihood, and I see this stuff happening, and it's extremely concerning that why hasn't our government caught on and reacted faster to this? It's just bizarre to me that we haven't acted more seriously. Now I'm hopeful that it's just above my pay grade, just like everybody else's. We don't need to know. The NSA, Space Force, whoever's doing it, I don't care if it's an agency we don't even know exists. Somebody's got to be doing it. This is a country of 300 million people. We have $100 trillion of wealth in this country. The whole planet depends on us to get our shit together and do a good job so that we preserve freedom, not just for our generation, but for future generations. And we do need to defeat the evils of communism. Communism is a virus, and it's a virus ideologically. It's a virus, socially. It's a virus. I guess you can say physically. And you guys know what I'm talking about there. And so, we need to do all these things and do our part to be more vigilant. And I'm hopeful that there's American companies that are starting to prepare to figure out how these things need to be solved. And so I'm just kind of sounding the alarm, folks, with regards to this one, because I hope there's companies out there that you know what, I'm ready to use something other than Microsoft Word and Excel. If we can create a non-Microsoft version that is owned by we the people, kind of like the one that was out there before Google bought it. We need more solutions. I know it sounds crazy because some people say, Bobby, you sound like a communist. Like, I'm not a communist. I love pure capitalism, which is free people deciding how they want to buy and sell things. I don't like collusion between companies and industries where we get stripped of all our power and we have no say. And that's my gripe. And so since we're being treated that way, we have to create an offsetting power structure, an association of sorts, where Americans, they crowdsource solutions to come up with alternatives to these massive companies. Because if we don't do it, we're toast. I mean, people already feel like we're toast, but I'm saying we'll really be toast. We'll be done. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do to reverse it at some point. Right now, we still have it within our means and our abilities, and the technology's there, and resources are there, and the talent is there. I'm telling you, I've met so many folks in the past few months from all around the country that have reached out to me. America is just loaded with talent. I mean, so much brain power and so many creativity, so many creative minds and backgrounds and so forth from all over the country. It gives me incredible hope, and I'm more optimistic than ever. This is not it's not as dire as the press makes it out to be, but I do think it's a good sounding. It's a good alarm that's being sounded, that we need to get this shit done, and that's that. So, anyways, those are the big news stories. The markets and futures are kind of flat right now. Nothing's going on in the markets. Last week on Friday, a lot of things closed near all-time highs or on all-time highs. I think the S&P closed at an all-time high. I think the NASDAQ, the QQQ, was within striking distance. So, that's where we're at today. And I guess I will see you guys later on this afternoon. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and thanks for listening. Have a great day.